If this was the 90s, he would be all that. It's me, my Scotch, and I. Cause Obie is the guy. Obie is the guy.
Good evening and welcome to Me, My Scotch, and I. I am Obie Spencer, and we are on the Spanglish Sports World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app from either the iOS or Android App Store. The app is free. Please rate it. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. Show is broadcast on 4 continents and 35 countries. Today we're going to talk about Canadian sports. We know that they compete with American teams in basketball and baseball and, of course, hockey. Did you know lacrosse is the national summer sport of Canada? Let's not forget the fascination that everyone has with curling from the Winter Olympics. Here to discuss Canada's sports culture with me is the Spanglish Sports World's very own Candid Frank. Frank, how are you?
I'm awesome. I'm still tapping my foot from that intro.
Oh, thank you. The Shade Tree Mechanics wrote that for us, so thank you to them.
Absolutely. I had my surfboard out.
Yeah, so do I. I think that's usually why I get disconnected before the show starts. I'm beginning to know a little bit more about you, but where does the nickname Candid come from?
Oh, well, okay. It's a good question, and it starts about 8-10 years ago. I decided to do a podcast, and a group of football fans that I was a part of called Argo Lifers. Do I have something up there? That shirt there that says Argo Lifers. So this guy John Granger says to me, Frank, you should do a podcast. I said, and because I did television stuff like that, so I started the podcast. I wanted to think of a name for it. And I wanted the name to reflect the Canadian Football League. How could I make it do that? So I decided, what 3 words can I use that'll be CFL? F was easy. Frank. And then what is a synonym for Frank? So I went, it was easy. It was Candid. Candid is another way of being Frank. So it's Candid Frank. Then I went, now I need an L. What would be a good L? And okay, Candid Frank Live. It only took about, and you're an artiste type person, right? All the best things that you come up with in life when it comes to, I hear anyway, whether people write a movie, whether they write a song, whether they put together some music, it just enters. It's not, I don't want to say it's not hard work, because some people will kick me in the head for saying that, and I wouldn't blame them. But sometimes inspiration comes not easily, but it's very fluid, and it just, you just think about something, and it's laying right out there in front of you. So yeah, it was really simple. So I called the show Candid Frank Live, and the original, the last guy that owned this network before Eduardo took over, he always asked me this question. He says, okay, I know who Candid is, I know who Frank is, but who the heck is Live? The whole point of it was CFL, Candid Frank Live, and it was the name of the show. Welcome to Candid Frank Live, where we talk about the CFL, and in particular CFL talk. So that's where that came from.
That's great. That's absolutely great. And I figured it was going to be like you had been totally candid with somebody and they were unhappy with you, but you were like, I'm just going to keep the name. But no, much better than that.
Well, people did refer to me as being candid because I'm not very politically correct. I'm learning to be, because we have to for survival. But I wasn't really that. I was more candid than I should be, and I've learned to be that less. So yeah.
So now you're more like Frank as opposed to full Candid Frank.
I'm candid with reservations.
Okay. All right. When we were first talking about doing the show, you said you could talk about sports outside of Toronto. Is that because the Raptors, Blue Jays are not playing in Toronto, or is there a...
Well, you asked about the Canadian version of pro. Well, if we talk about pro sports, except for the hockey teams, in Canada. All the rest of the teams, which happen to be based in Toronto, are the big three. They're all teams that play not in Toronto. Two of them are playing in Disney World, Disney adjacent.
Right.
And then you have the Jays are playing in Florida at their home base. Their new facility, which is awesome, by the way, a beautiful facility. So they play there. The Canadian teams playing hockey this time around, they're allowed to play in Canada. Last time when they had the bubble, the only reason they played in Canada was because the Americans said, you know what, we'll take Edmonton and Toronto and we'll have the games there. So we our home teams aren't home. But when you look at it in the Canadian context, Canada's a pretty big country. And the rest of Canada basically has to travel to Toronto to see the team. And that's quite the hike because, as you know, we're as high and wide as you guys are in America as far as space that we take up.
Right.
And space you have to cover to go see stuff.
Yeah. No, and I'm glad that that's the explanation because I was looking. I discovered that Toronto claims 7 major league sports and teams, which is one more than my own Philadelphia. So that all makes sense. Let's move to the sport that most Americans instantly associate, or I should say United Statesians most associate with Canada. Of course, that's hockey. When we're talking hockey, we talk about the NHL. Toronto has clinched a playoff spot with 69 points through, but there's 7 teams playing for that last spot. Sorry. Yeah, they are separated by 10 points.
Right.
And Calgary is a few games to make up. So who do you like getting into the playoffs there in the North?
Well, if Montreal can put their stuff together, there's a good chance. The Leafs are a lock, not necessarily for first, because if they hit another slump like they did before, they could get caught. So you pretty much, it'll be the Leafs probably against Montreal. For it to be Calgary's pretty much done. In fact, they are. I think they are anyway. Vancouver has the amount of games that they can play to get there. But the favorite is, and as you know, Obi, when it comes to chasing the playoffs, the end of the year, it's hard to make up points because the time runs out on you. Because what happens is, for example, with Vancouver, they have to win every game. So, what are the odds of that? And then they got to hope the other team loses every game. And the closer we get to the end, that becomes the factor where basically you run out of games and basically the math just doesn't work for you. And the math doesn't work for the other 3 teams in the division. I'll say this, I had a debate with some friends and they were saying, well, the Canadian division has just as tough a time as the American divisions. And I don't agree because all the American divisions have an extra team in it. So, you've got 4 teams that aren't going to make it. In Canada, we have 3. So we're kind of lucky that way. I know the Canadians are listening to me saying, oh, but the fact is it's true. And, our Canadian teams have not done well. It's been 1993, 28 years since a Canadian team has won the Stanley Cup. That's all 7 teams. None of them have won a Stanley Cup in 28 years. And that's not a good thing for Canada. And they've had difficulty making the playoffs. So some people might be overrating Edmonton, Toronto, in as far as how good they are, because the reality is that they're not in a division with a lot of history of success in the playoffs in the immediate past, if you will.
Yes, I totally see that. And then that not having that 8th team, I guess one argument is that 8th team is so much worse. It gives the other 7 teams a few extra points, but then you're still competing among 7 teams, even if you're all getting the same points from that bottom feeder.
Right. And it's about being the 4th best team. For me, the 4th best team in an 8-team division is harder than a 4th best team in a 7-team division. You only have to be better than 3 teams, because when it comes to sneaking into the playoffs, if you will. It's not about how good you are compared to the top team. It's how good you are compared to the bottom team. So, and that's my logic. But, it really doesn't matter because, Obi, we both know, everybody knows, it really doesn't matter. The regular season matters only to get into the dance. It's like getting to the Sweet 16 in college basketball, right? Anybody can win once you get to that point.
Absolutely. And speaking of anybody can win, how is it that the Stanley Cup is not going to end up in the middle of a desert of Nevada this year?
Do you think that they don't have a chance? Is that
no?
what
I'm saying. I'm going. Sorry, I worded that question trying to be fancy, and I didn't come out clear. I'm saying that it seems like they are the team to beat. How is somebody going to beat them and keep the Stanley Cup out of the middle of Nevada, whereas the last place it should probably be?
Well, the Las Vegas team has, from the very beginning, been given advantages that no other franchise, a team that comes into the league for the first time was never given that kind of head start. They got a head start like no other league has done that kind of thing. Right. The only league that comes close actually is the National Lacrosse League, where a new team comes in and they give them a championship team. But short of that, with the National Hockey League, the Las Vegas team has had every advantage, and they've taken advantage of every advantage. But I'm not sure that the Avalanche won't be the team. I'm not sure that there aren't a couple of other teams that might have some say in keeping that mug out of the desert. But the one thing's for sure, it's going to be in a warmer climate regardless, because they're going to be playing for the Stanley Cup a little later than normal. And so it's going to be a little warmer everywhere. And so the Stanley Cup's going to have to wear a bathing suit or sunglasses or something. I don't know, even if it's in the desert or even wherever it goes.
She'll be looking prettier than ever.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Is it me, or is Sidney Crosby somehow quietly having a great year?
He is, I think he's taught stars how to be stars. I'm not saying that before he came along, Lemieux wasn't a hard worker, or Gretzky wasn't a hard worker, or they didn't practice hard, that kind of stuff. Oh, what the heck? I am saying that. The one thing that Crosby does is he works very hard. Previous superstars before him were more, they got the ability. It's not to suggest they were lazy. That's not what I'm saying. But all one has to do is, if you find somebody who can follow or watch Crosby practice, and then they watched Gretzky practice, or they watched, Lemieux practice, there's just a different attitude, and his attitude has permeated within the National Hockey League. We've got two players on Canadian teams. We've got McDavid and Matthews. They practice together in Arizona, and they work really hard at their craft. In fact, part of the thing is they want to work together, play together, practice together in the off season, because essentially they're trying to make each other better. And I think they've done that pretty well. I don't think it's a coincidence. I know a lot of people say, well, McDavid is McDavid. He was always going to be great. He's always going to be great. And so is Austin Matthews. He has that ability to shoot the puck. But I got to tell you, hard work and learning how to be a better player, pushing the envelope, talent is only so much. Not that it's nothing. It's a lot. But when you mix it with hard work, now you're starting to talk about something special. It's no coincidence that Pittsburgh has won as many Stanley Cups as they have, in Pittsburgh. And I'm pretty sure Crosby had a bit to do with those Stanley Cups.
Just a little. He had some saying that. And a few Olympic golds for Canada as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely. Then there's the golden goal, the one that they got in Vancouver, which everybody remembers in Canada, at least anyway. I'm sure it's one that Americans want to forget, but we're okay with winning that one.
Hey, these things do happen. Speaking of McDavid, he seems to be the favorite for the Hart Trophy. Is that your pick for the Hart Trophy at this point? And who do you have as the best goalie this year?
You know, when I think of best goalies, I think of Tampa. Always a great goalie. In the Canadian division, Hallebuck until recently would have been, he could have repeated, but he has not been as effective as he has in the past. I'm really Tampa has the goaltender that makes the big saves, and it's like he teases players into thinking there's an opening, and he shuts the door. You know, it's just amazing. It's amazing what he does.
Okay. So I did tell you we are going to talk a little bit about CFL, but I'm not really here to talk about the teams as much, trying to understand it, because I started to do some actual looking at it. First of all, there's I think 9 teams, and yet somehow you get to play 18 games. In our NFL, we have 30 teams. We're complaining about 17. And then there's something called crossover. So what is all that's going on? Help me understand what that is.
Well, very simple. Simply put, because there are 2 divisions, East and West. I'll start there. There are 5 teams in the Western Division. There are 4 teams in the Eastern Division. So over the years, it's become clear that the Western teams are better than the Eastern teams. So you can follow me now that might raise a little bit of a question by the West, feeling that it's not fair that there's 5 of them fighting for a playoff spot and they're better than the East. So they have a crossover. So what happens is at the end of the season, 2 teams get in both divisions. Then dependent on the order of the rest of the teams. In other words, if the 3rd place team and the 4th place team in one division, usually it's the West Division, if they have a better record has to be better, can't be equal, than the team in the Eastern Division, they occupy what you called and what is called the crossover. So they cross over into the East, and we have a bye in the first round because only 3 teams make the playoffs. So the crossover team would meet the 2nd place team as did recently. BC played Toronto in not last year, but anyway, they played Toronto when Toronto won the Grey Cup, and they beat them in 2017, I think it was. So if they win, then they play the Eastern Division winner. So technically, even though the league is split between East and West, that bye team could come to the East and win the first playoff game with the 2nd place team, and then beat the 1st place team. They would go to the Grey Cup to play the other actual Western Division champion. That's what the crossover is all about.
Gotcha. Okay. It makes complete sense. And the whole thing is that it would only be the equivalent of one of our conferences, not both, because you're dealing with 6 teams as opposed to 12. So that's easy enough to follow.
If you called what we have conferences, it would be a West Conference and an East Conference, but there are no other conferences. There's just 2 divisions, East and West.
Okay. That makes sense. That wasn't as hard to follow as I thought it was going to be.
I try to make things easy.
You did.
It's the cornerstone of my success. I'm frank and clear. Saying candid.
So, as an American, when I hear Canadian sports, right, we go, oh, Canadians love hockey. Oh, they have their own football. But the summer sport is lacrosse, even more so than baseball, I guess. Is lacrosse going to be played this summer?
Okay. It is going to be played. Lacrosse is played in the summer and in the winter. So I'll help you to get the story on lacrosse. In the winter, box lacrosse is played, even by American players. You had a team in Philly. Usually the season starts in December and ends April-ish, if I remember correctly, March, April, and they play in the National Lacrosse League. Then there are also other leagues. You have leagues there that play field lacrosse, and field lacrosse is what's played in the summer. Here in Canada, to give you an idea how complicated lacrosse is, it really isn't. You have the Canadian players play in the National Lacrosse League in the winter, and then we have our own leagues in Canada where they play in the summer, and they play box lacrosse. In Canada, we're not really a field lacrosse country. That's something that you guys have, and I can understand how that would confuse you because your colleges play in the summer as well. They play, they play field lacrosse in the summer. So we don't play field lacrosse at the same level that you do. Not often. We play box, and it's in empty hockey rinks where there's no hockey. So hockey ends. It works out that way. Hockey ends or is ending, and the kids will play then in the summer there as well as the pro National Lacrosse League that plays in Colorado's. The Denver team, the Colorado Avalanche, have an associate lacrosse team in the National Lacrosse League. We have Calgary has both. We have I'm trying to remember what other teams, but anyway, there's some of those associations where the hockey team actually owns the lacrosse team as well.
That's a good strategy. I mean, to most of us who are not familiar with all of the rules and regs of lacrosse, it's easiest just to describe it as kind of like hockey.
Yeah.
You put the ball in the net. It's a smaller net, and unlike soccer, you can really hit each other. You can use your body in ways to prevent that scoring. Whereas soccer, you really are limited to touching the ball, whether it's on somebody's foot. If they happen to fall, so be it. Okay, so
contact is approved. Contact is approved.
Yes, contact is approved. Now I know that in earlier conversations I had with you that there was definite problems with getting lacrosse up and going with COVID, people having to go cross borders, weeks of waiting. You can't do that and play a sport. So what does it look like is going to happen with lacrosse this summer in Canada with your COVID rules and regs as they change rapidly up there? I know they're not as loosening up as they are around here.
Mainly because we are not at the same point of vaccinating as you are. The vaccine rollout in Canada is probably, I'll put it this way to simplify it. We're about 2 months behind you guys.
Okay. And I remember where we were 2 months ago.
Right. So we're about 2 months behind you with that stuff. We have some real issues here in Ontario, where I live. Quebec has some serious concerns. We're in the middle of lockdowns. We're developing in our country the same kind of frustration. And so sports is much about blowing off steam, right? We know that, right, Obi?
Yeah.
Why do you guys why do Americans want to get back to sports? Why do they want the stadiums to open up? It's how we vent. It's how we say goodbye to misery. And so I know not everybody's a sports fan, but even the people who like to go to the opera, even the people who like to go to a museum, even the people who want to go for a walk in the park, so the lacrosse thing in the summer is not looking promising. There are some schedules out in the U.S. Some summer leagues have already put their schedules out, and they will be playing. In Canada, not so much. But what I can say for lacrosse fans in this country is that the NLL is actually planning on their season. They've said and produced a schedule. They've supported it with a schedule being produced and shown to the fans. Where in December, they're going to come back, and the assumption is we're going to have this thing taken care of by December. In football, we're going to have the CFL is going to have a delayed start. Usually, we have a thing that we call Canadians. We love naming stuff. We have a thing that says, "Is it June yet?" Which is a reference to football starting. Is it June yet? A hashtag. So if you ever see a hashtag, is it June yet? That's Canadian Football League fans saying, is it June yet? Well, for now, it's going to be, is it August yet here? So that might happen. I just wanted to throw that in because, and I want to also explain something else that's really important that I think would interest you. The National Lacrosse League and the Canadian Football League, between the two of them, they run the cycle of the whole year. One ends, one begins. The other one ends, the other one begins. So we have a symbiosis between those two leagues. How much it costs to go to the games. They're affordable here in Canada. Secondly, the same fans go to both. And we have a town called Hamilton, just like you would have Philly in New Jersey, right? Very close.
Right.
And they have two NFL teams, but then they share a lacrosse team, and they both end up being fans for that lacrosse team. That's the kind of stuff we have going on, which is why it's important to get past this pandemic. And the point I was trying to make about the league starting, it's not just about the league, as you know, it's about the fans as well. Because as much as we enjoyed watching the fanless games, whether it's football, tennis, basketball, hockey, everybody wants the fans back in the stands because I know it means a lot of money to the leagues and they're promoting it because they want those tickets to be sold. But there's also this ambience that's created, right? It's like a fine whiskey. If you chill it a little bit, that's what the fans are. That chills it a little bit and it helps that flavor come along. I know a lot of room temperature alcohol is okay, but I'm just saying sometimes some beverages taste better when they're chilled. Some hockey games are better when there's fans there. They're the chill to me. And everybody wants that for that reason. Selfishly, the fans want to be there. Emotionally, the players want them to be there. And the owners are going, yeah, let's have them come.
Right. Well, I know I read the release from the CFL about getting the season started later. And in there, they were saying, unlike other major North American leagues, we need people in the stands for our owners to make the money they need to make. Which, I know football owners are like, oh, we didn't make as much money. Yeah, you didn't make as much money, but it wasn't a loss by not having folks in the stands because people were still watching on TV and you still got the next TV deal and, you proved your sport is successful without fans. Same for the NBA, but apparently that's not true. I would imagine that's also true for lacrosse. They need folks in the stands.
Yes, because neither. Lacrosse has to have fans. And it's all about if you have TV revenue, be grateful. The TV revenue doesn't come to lacrosse. They don't have a real TV revenue contract. They did here in Canada. They have independent stations all across the United States, like Fox Sports, or like much of hockey and everything else. But with the CFL, the problem is that the money each team gets, which is about $5 million. So I'll help you to understand. They get about $5 million each. Guess what the cap is? $5 million. So that means the money that the owners get from the TV contract, they turn over and give to the players.
Okay.
And the coaches and such. So if they're going to get any money, at least they've got to have fans in because popcorn's worth money, beer's worth money, and of course, selling tickets is worth money, the obvious. So yeah, it's part of the fluidity that they required. Every business needs to have money come in.
Makes sense. So now the last time I went to a baseball game with my wife was actually in Montreal.
All right.
So yes, I saw the then Expos play one of their last games.
Mets.
Vladimir Guerrero was playing, so it was fun. It was a good time. They played Atlanta. Glavin pitched. I'm dating myself, but if I was at an Expos game, obviously I'm dating myself by saying that. I kind of get the sense that baseball in Canada is like baseball in Florida. Like, it's there. Am I underrating how Canadians feel about their Blue Jays?
Well, when it comes to baseball in Canada, the best way I can put this is if you don't come here to watch a game, when you came to watch the game, what did you think of the crowd?
It was very sparse. I showed up on game day and I got seats on the third base line, 2 rows back. So the best seats we've ever had for a game.
And now that I'm getting to understand when you arrived at the point where the Expos were not bringing in fans.
Yes.
Montreal, I'll give you a quick lesson on the Montreal community. Don't win, we don't come. It's the same with the Montreal Canadiens, believe it or not. They are very, there's a saying in Quebec about the Montreal Canadiens. Win or tie, we're with the team. There's no tie now, so now it's win or you forget about it. Yeah, no, they're very. I don't know if Philly's like. I know that Philly, the fans complain a lot about their teams, whether it be the Phillies, the Flyers. They're pretty tough. You guys are pretty tough on your team. In Montreal, their toughness is they don't walk up to the turnstile. That's the toughness. And Montreal, if you remember, they lost to the Dodgers in the playoffs. Rick Monday on a Monday got a home run. I'll never forget that because of his name and because of the day. There were two things connected. I'll always remember that. I was watching on TV. Unfortunately, Canada does not have the kind of deep population that America does. So it's harder for them in some towns if the team isn't really, really, really popular. They're living on a shoestring. And in the Expos case, they couldn't keep the interest of the fans in Montreal. But just for the sake of discussion here, there is some talk that they'll be sharing the team in Tampa. And we'll be seeing games. This is something that Montreal and Tampa's ownership are discussing. Whether it comes true or not, I don't know. The Expos were a team that in this country were highly respected, and a lot of fans loved them. And, if you can imagine that team leaving, being baseball, I'm going to tell you something else. In Quebec, they had a hockey team, the Quebec Nordiques, that moved to Colorado. So It's not about the sport. Obi, it's not about the sport. It's about politics here, and it's about how a team is accepted within the business environment. Toronto leads everybody in everything because Toronto is the big city. To a lot of other cities in Canada's disgust and dismay. So we're insulated. The Toronto Maple Leafs, for example, the NBA's Raptors, they're all owned by the same company, MLSE, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. The Rogers, one of the main partners in MLSE, owns the Blue Jays by themselves, but they have a lot of money. So, it was more of the Bronfmans, a private ownership in Montreal. So, the money ran out and nobody was there to be able to bring in, and what was necessary was they wanted a new stadium. And a lot of times with leagues today, that's the primary function. If you're willing to build a stadium, leagues will come. Look at Seattle and look at some other, Seattle now is going to get back their NBA team. Watch. They're going to get their team back. I don't know where it's going to come from, how it's going to get there, but there's going to be an NBA team in Seattle. Why? Because it's a lot of money that needs to be invested for the stadium. And more stadiums are not being funded by governments. They don't feel it's their responsibility. And taxpayers get a little upset because not everybody's a sports fan. So That's the problem. All I'm saying is that there's lots of, to answer your question, I went off on a tangent, is that the Montreal Expos were loved in Canada, were loved in Montreal, and they want to have them back.
Okay. Now, I do know we have just enough time for it. They did go ahead and win because they knew that you wanted to mock them, but the Yankees won 10-0 today. So.
That was a message for Scott. That wasn't about the Yankees. And if you notice what I said, I was just yanking his pinstripes because I wanted to share my own version of the Bronx cheer with him. You see, I did what I did there. All three.
Yes, I did. There was a lot of great puns, all metaphors, all rolled into one.
Thank you. When I did my play-by-play here, when I did my play-by-play here, when I was back many years ago, I used to do a lot of puns, and my producer and the director said, "Frank, you got to stop doing the puns." Then this guy comes to Hockey Night in Canada, and all he does is puns. And I look back at those guys. Come on, it wasn't that bad after all. So I feel vindicated. But yeah, I used to love doing puns.
Okay. So curling is an Olympic sport that Americans associate with Canada, probably incorrectly. Captures people once every 4 years, but its origins are actually Scottish.
Right.
And that's going to bring us to a new segment we're going to do on our show. So we'll bring up our pictures, and the segment is Canada, the U.S., or the rest of the world. So as you can see, you have a picture here of the mechanical computer. So I'm going to ask you, when I show you the whatever it is, the picture, where was it invented? Canada, America, or the rest of the world? And so the motor-driven mechanical computer, where was it invented?
Well, I'm going to assume America.
Actually, Germany. The Z1 was the first mechanically computer in the 1930s. A guy built it where else? In his garage.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's look at the next one. The Ferris wheel. Where was it invented? Canada, the United States, or the rest of the world?
I'm going to say for that one, I'm going to say the rest of the world, and I'll probably be wrong.
Yes, I intentionally misled you by putting the I as the picture. That is an American invention. It was invented by George Washington Gale Ferris. He invented it to compete with the Eiffel Tower, which I find strange since Eiffel gave us here in the U.S. The Statue of Liberty.
Interesting. I'm 0 for 2 now, Obi.
You are 0 for 2, and so was I as I looked these up. Don't worry. Here we go to the next one. Peanut butter. Canada, the U.S., or the rest of the world?
I got to go the U.S. again.
So now at least we're getting to ones that are difficult. This one is actually Canada. Most people think it's George. That it would be George Washington Carver, who was an agricultural scientist and inventor who developed hundreds of products using peanuts, not peanut butter. Also, sweet potatoes and soybeans. However,
Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, no relation. However, in 1884, Marcellus Gilmore Edson of Canada patented peanut butter paste. Let's keep on moving.
0 for 3.
Video games.
Any specific video games?
Just video games. Unfortunately, I don't have a specific one, but I can tell you this is older than Pong.
I had that. Those look like Nintendo.
Those are. That was, yes. We're talking 1940s
Japan.
here.
So I'd say the world there, because that'd be Japan probably.
Actually, this one was the United States. Thomas Goldsmith Jr. and Estelle Ray Mann. All right, what do we have next? Yes, a brief respite here. Remember, you can see Me, My Scotch, and I not only here on Zingo TV, but we are on TikTok at Me, My Scotch, and I with underscore separating them. And this show and all of its individual components get put out on our YouTube channel, Me, My Scotch, and I. We take our various segments and they get their own playlists, so you can watch other people get questions wrong in this segment that has been much harder than I suspected. Let's look at.
I don't think it's harder. I think you've run into somebody who doesn't have a clue.
Yeah, I doubt that. Wireless radio transmission.
Oh, this one's terrible because there's an argument over who invented it.
Oh,
In Europe, Marconi. In America, I don't remember who it is. So it depends who. This is one of those ones where I'm going to both be wrong and right at the same time. So in actuality, I believe it was invented in Europe, but I think it depends who wrote the answer on this one, in my opinion.
So
It'll probably be America.
I'm going to take actually, I have Canada for my answer.
Oh.
Canadian Reginald Aubrey Fessenden was a prolific inventor in the area of wireless technology, often regarded as an unsung hero in Canada because of course, Marconi.
Right.
But he built a two-way radio transmission tower that went and one in Boston, one in Scotland, and issued the first transatlantic radio broadcast. Let's see what's next. The bristled toothbrush.
Well, we know it wasn't invented in England.
I agree. I'm hoping. While I was doing this, Frank, I also found dental floss. I was like, are either one of these England? How great would that be? But no.
History would have changed so much.
This is
the toothbrush. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with. Okay, who would be hygiene fanatical? I really want. You know what? I'm going to go with the U.S. for this one.
This is very old. Before in 1498, the Chinese invented the bristled toothbrush.
Oh,
yes. And now this last one. Let's bring it back around to sports where we started.
Canada.
Canada.
This one I got. John Naismith invented basketball.
So what I think is great, I'm going to give you that one, is you caught the trick on the wireless radio transmission. And, of course, this one is also a trick question, as Naismith was definitely Canadian. The game was invented, of course, in the U.S., but I'm going to give you that right away. Didn't even begin to budge on that, so we'll give you that one for sure.
Well, he invented it, but he was at a U.S. college. That's right. Where he invented it.
Yes, but he is definitely Canadian.
Yes, but I don't know if that was the question. I think I got that wrong because you said where it was invented, so I'm probably wrong on that one too.
You know, I kind of my
listen.
answer.
I like a clean record. Okay, if you don't give me that one, I'm perfect. Perfectly wrong.
Then in that case, U.S. You're wrong. You're batting 1,000.
The wrong 1,000, but what the heck?
That's it. Hey, one Mendoza line or the other. Check out SpanglishSportsWorld.com for all the news and programming. Spanglish Sports World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, live it. Now we get to have ourselves a little bit of fun, as if this wasn't fun enough. And we are going to go to our tasting. So we'll stick on Canada first, and we'll take out our Canadian Club, 1858. Really,
one of our pride and joys, right?
Yes,
in Canada.
This is a nice deep amber color.
It sure is. Ooh, I just realized how much I filled the glass.
Well, this is why we don't drink the whole thing on air. Pecans, caramel.
All I smell is alcohol.
A little acetone, yeah, for sure.
But what I like about it, it doesn't have a strong smell. It's more of a subtle smell.
It is.
Some whiskeys they run right out of the glass. The aroma runs right out of the glass.
Yes, that's
especially the American ones. Especially the American ones.
No, it's the peaty Scotch. Scotch is that will scare your guests right off your table.
Ah.
Let's
Hmm. Well, it was fun doing a show with you. Not much of a drinker. What can I tell you?
That's okay. Hey, I only have a sip of each. I enjoy the flavor of a good whiskey, but I too don't need. It's late. I need to get up at some point tomorrow. But that was a lot more flavorful than I expected, given that it's coming out of a plastic bottle. I was expecting the worst, and not at all.
Yeah,
Very nice.
I refuse to buy alcohol. I don't buy enough to worry about it. I refuse to buy it out of a plastic container.
Well, I did it anyway. And
Yeah, no, I understand that you. Never mind that you would too. But for the show, you'll do anything. For the show, you'll do anything.
That's right. Well, when I went to buy it, I called the guy. I call up the store. Do you have this? Do you have that? Yes, we do. And the guy, and what's your small size? Half a pint. And he explained to him what's going on, why I'm calling up every week to ask for not the most unheard of brands, but not always, your Doers or whatever, or your Jack Daniels. And he's like, it's a great show, but yes, that's a good idea. You need to call because some of those are not going to be here. And then sometimes you got to get the smallest bottle you can.
Absolutely. I have, I don't know if I can get a smaller bottle.
Yes, many times. Many times that's what I'm drinking on the show. Let me pour my Glenfiddich 12, which we did have one other time before, but we never got to actually review it because my guest decided he was going to drink something else, and it ran into a bit of a snag. He's been forgiven, though.
Well, good for him.
Yes. This is a little lighter, a little more golden.
Yep, it is.
A little more fruity and a lot stronger.
Absolutely. Smell. Yep, the smell's a little stronger.
Yep.
And you can almost feel the flavor.
Yes. I like that description of it. Absolutely.
Oh, that goes down raw, baby. Woo.
It definitely has more bite, but I also feel like it has more going on flavorful before the finish. The finish is definitely going to hit you a lot harder.
Absolutely.
But more spices in that flavor while it's in the mouth. I think I like the finish more, but I'm very impressed with the Canadian Club. Was not expecting it to be as good as it was.
The Glenfiddich, it's like an embrace from your grandmother. It's warm when you drink it. It just warms you up inside. And of course, just be careful. That's all I can say, because that's the danger of Glenfiddich. It is so smooth and so, not that the other, not that the Canadian Club bites you or anything, but the Glenfiddich is a little trickier. It's a little, it fools you a little bit. The first time I drank Glenfiddich, I drank more than I should have without even realizing, it just sneaks up on you and it doesn't stop. And that's great if you know what's coming. I learned my lesson, only learned once. That's all. Just like Southern Comfort, I learned my lesson, but with Southern Comfort, I'm never buying it again. I made that decision. It ain't happening. I learned about that when I was 22, and I said, ain't buying this stuff ever again.
No, that I haven't had that yet. I can imagine not yet. Since the show started, I can imagine it coming back on the show, and it's known for its sweetness.
Yes,
but given the changes they've been making in flavoring over the last 20 years, it's probably a mild sweetness compared to some of the other things that are out there.
Oh, absolutely.
Like these honey ones and the cinnamon fireball one. You're going, Southern Comfort. Oh, that's just a whiskey. That's not a flavored whiskey. Yes, it is. Yes, it is a flavored whiskey.
Absolutely. The culture that I come from the Italian culture, a lot of their we have liqueurs, which is another way of saying, how do you like sugar?
I'm sorry. That I'm thinking of the of now my little bottle of Chambreau with the crown, a classic Italian liqueur, and limoncello is another.
Oh, that stuff's awesome. That
Yes.
burns and rots your teeth at the same time.
While I have you here, I know you do a lot on this network and possibly stuff off this network. So why don't you let people know all the stuff it is that you do here and elsewhere?
Well, mostly here, and I spend a lot of time, hugging the Canadian Football League. It's the game I really care about, and as I said, I started doing a podcast because I felt not only that I loved the game, but I felt it needed me as well. So I've done that, and so that's Mondays at 1:00. We do CFL Talk with David Morisuti, who just wrote an article on Canadian players on Sportsnet. You can follow that, folks. On Tuesday, I have one day I don't do anything other than we have a meeting and we discuss how we can improve Spanglish sports world. So, like you, I'm a part of the executive on this network, and we're hoping for big things. On Mondays and Wednesdays, I do News Talk, where we talk about news. We talk about sports, and it's just a news, weather and sports broadcast from a North American perspective. Aaron William Freeland does that with me, and we discuss stuff. On Thursday at 4:00, I do National Lacrosse League lacrosse show. And we've been, with no games going on, we've been reaching back into players with a lot of history, Hall of Famers, talking to them about the game and that kind of stuff. And then, of course, on Friday, we do Open Forum, which is a project Eduardo and I have been working on for a while. And we talk to people, about politics, about social stuff and that kind of thing. And have one guest talk to him for 55 minutes. And my favorite thing about that is Eduardo keeps being told, what are we going to talk about for an hour? And Eduardo says, don't worry about it. You'll be talking to Frank. So we've done a good job of that, of not boring people that we interview, which is a good thing. It's a good start. And then on Saturday, we do Leaf Talk and More, which is basically, I love this, the process that we put together is we do Leaf Talk like a hockey game. In the first period, we talk about what the Leafs did last week. And then when we have an intermission, we talk about the news for a few minutes. So it's an hour show. And then the second period, we talk about the upcoming week for the Leafs. And then we talk basically about other sports. And then we talk about the other teams in the National in the National Hockey League, the Canadian teams. And then we talk about lacrosse a little bit. And of course, we talk about minor hockey. And then that's pretty much it. It keeps me busy.
That sounds like it keeps you busy. Absolutely. Here I was thinking I was a busy man with just running the Sports Den with Scott on Tuesdays at 4, which is a great show as well. And this, but I'm not carrying my weight. Apparently, I need to. No, Eduardo. 2's enough for me right now.
Let me be clear. Just like you and Scott carries some of the weight, and I have guys that carry a lot of the weight. So I'm very fortunate that the people I work with are very sincere in their making their contribution to the program. And full well, we can't do any of this alone. And there's people that people don't see. We joke about Eduardo. But mostly, I think Eduardo's he's kind of okay. But I think the real strength behind the organization is Rebecca. I think she's the one that really carries stuff. I think anyway. As far as I'm concerned.
Our beautiful background and our intro graphics are all Rebecca. Next week, we have on our show here sports agent Anthony Solano. But of course, I am out there still searching for my bottle of Ron Burgundy's Great Odin's Raven Special Reserve Scotch.
Yikes.
We'd like to get that so we can share it with Will Ferrell and land him as a nice dream interview and discuss some of his great sports movies. Thank you as always, and see you all next week.
It's a show with Obie and his rocking hat. If this was the 90s, he would be all that. It's me, my Scotch, and I, 'cause Obie is the guy. Obie is the guy.